So today's topic, authentication workflows with Cypress and Mailosaur. One of the things that I really appreciate about Cypress is the fact that we can, it's a system that we can plug in stuff to, right? We can install different plugins, we can expand the functionality, and we can do all kinds of amazing stuff. And one of my favorite plugins is Mailosaur. So we're going to be talking about that and how that actually helps us with authentication workflows, more precisely two-factor authentication workflows. One of the things that sometimes gets pointed out as we are talking about two-factor authentication is a question whether you should even automate two-factor authentication. Isn't the whole point of two-factor to not be automated? And I realized there is a little bit of confusion when it comes to two-factor authentication, because its main goal, it's actually not that it should not be automated. Its main goal is to have another factor to your authentication so that in case someone, God forbid, steals your laptop, you still have your phone that you need in order to log in to your Gmail, to your Google account, to the most important services that we use. Which means that if we can automate the second factor, we can still automate a workflow that uses that second factor. So, my name is Filip. I'm community manager at Replay.io. I publish Cypress tips and some other testing tips at philipriz.com, which is my blog. I also have released a course on 99 Cypress tips, where you also find a chapter on Mailosaur. I do workshops, presentations, webinars, courses, and all kinds of other creative stuff. So if you want to follow me, feel free to do so on my homepage. When it comes to today's workshop form, what we will be doing, or what the way I normally do my workshops, is that I usually start with a chapter overview of what we will be talking about. And then I'll do a little bit, a short demo. And usually I include a practical challenge, but since today we are working on a slightly compressed format, I'm going to leave that practical challenge. I'm going to move that all the way back to after the workshop, because you can go to philipriz.com/cypressauth-workshop, download the repository, run it on your own, and try it on your own. So the practical challenge will actually come after that. If you experience any kind of hiccups, any kind of problems with that, feel free to reach out to me and we'll figure it out, and hopefully I can help you set up everything. As I mentioned, when it comes to Q&A, this happens continuously, so feel free to use the little Q&A section, and I'll make sure to answer all of your questions. All right, so what are the tools that we will be using? I'll be using Cursor because I have been enjoying using Cursor. In fact, I am preparing a workshop on Cursor, so if you're into that, again, tune in. But the most important tools today are going to be Mailosaur and Cypress. So let's start off with the first area, and that is email authentication. Email authentication being the second factor. So let's try to break it down, how things work when we do a two-factor authentication utilizing email. I'm referring to situations where you input your email, your password, but then a link is sent to your inbox, and you have to click that link in order to get to your service, right? So usually when that kind of interaction happens, user enters their email and there's a HTTP request sending an information to the server that we want to have a magic link sent to the client. This is coincidentally the same kind of workflow you will actually have with reset password. So you could even imagine this post request not being a magic link, but a reset password. So usually you type in your email on the server, we're going to look up that email and send a link, reset link or magic link to that email inbox. So this usually creates a temporary signed token, which means that server randomly generates a token that will actually enable to to access some service. Sometimes you get access right into the service that you're trying to log into. That would be the case of the magic link. And in case of password resets, this type of signed token would only allow you to go to the password reset page, which also needs to be protected. Otherwise, anyone could reset anyone else's password. So what happens, as I mentioned, this generated token is being sent to the email. Now this is where things get interesting, right? Because if it gets sent to the client's inbox, how do we access that? How can we utilize Cypress, and how can we write a workflow that accesses a inbox? There are a couple of answers to that, and my favorite answer is use Mailosaur. What Mailosaur does, it creates this virtual inbox for you, this virtual email inbox for you, which you can access by API. So instead of opening your Gmail, trying to find the email that you're looking for, looking into the contents of the email, finding the link, and then clicking on it, or I don't know, maybe using CY Visit to visit that link. Instead of that, you can just call Mailosaur service, and Mailosaur will actually read that email. It's going to parse all the information. You can access any info from that email that you want. So instead of opening the email, we can just call the API, or in our case, we're going to be grabbing that link and using that to open our application. All right, once we open that link, again, that link is verified. We need to send that information to the server. And if we're successful, then we're redirecting our user or redirecting browser to the success page. So let's show how that works, right? I think I might have my application. No, I need to open my application. And I have a couple of examples here, and we're going to be going through these examples during the workshop. So a magic link login would look something like this. In my application, I have this login page, and I only add my email, right? So if I add my email, Filip at philiphric.com, then I'm going to receive my email. I can show you that. Check your email for magic link, and hopefully that'll appear. Here we go. Nope, I think it landed in my spam. Oh no, I got it. All right, here you go. Here's my phone. Here you can see that I have indeed received my email. All right, but we want to automate this. We want to make sure that we can open the magic link that has been sent. So let's jump into Mailosaur, into Cursor, and we're going to set up Mailosaur. Here we go. So you know what? Actually, before we do that, let's go into the Mailosaur service. So once you register with Mailosaur, you're going to have access to a dashboard that looks like this. This is basically an interface that you can use to view the emails that have been received to a given email, and you can find the basic information. So for example, the most important one is going to be your API key so that you can access this mailbox. And the second most important is going to be the server ID. So what Mailosaur does is it creates this virtual inbox for you that has a unique ID, and then you can access that inbox using an API. So API key and your server ID are the two information that you need to have available, that you need to sort of safe. So here's my, you can create multiple inboxes. I have only created one. And in this inbox, if I click Mailosaur Workshop, it looks like an email. So if I go ahead and go back to my application, and I'm not going to enter my email, but instead I'm going to enter an email that contains my server ID, then that email is going to end up in this inbox. So let's copy that here down. You can see that this is my email address domain. And what I can do if I want to use that is I'll type in that address domain. So at my server ID .mailosaur.net. And what comes before the at symbol is actually whatever. So Mailosaur generates something for me. I can literally put anything here. So when I go ahead and send the magic link, if my application works, it works, all right. If I go back to my inbox and refresh that, I didn't even have to refresh that. I can see that email arriving. So here's my sign in Mailosaur OTP demo. You can see my sign in magic link. This will expire in 15 minutes. And what's really cool is that not only can I view this as a regular email, but this email is actually parsed. So in case I have any types of links, I can see them being parsed here. So I have links, access codes if there are any, attachments, and so on, right? So we can see the API response of what we would get if we were to access that through API. So let's do that. Let's write our email, our email test, sorry. So in the Cypress folder E2E, I'm going to create a new file, and let's call it email.cy.ts. This is where our email is going to be, email test is going to be, and I'll just create a new email, new test, keep exchanging words, and it says, yeah, should send a magic link to the email address. That sounds about right. It seems like it's already adding pretty much everything that I need, but let's go step by step. So I want to visit my auth magic link, which is the URL where my magic link site is. So localhost auth magic link. So that's where we will go. After that, I'm going to what am I going to do? I'm going to do contains, and I want to go to the magic link logins. Login. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm already in the magic link login, so I don't have to do that. So let's skip that. Instead, I'm going to do CYGET, and we're going to type in to that email. And I should probably do that with Cypress enabled. That will be much easier. So I'll open the Chrome. Sorry for a little bit of chaos at the beginning. As I mentioned, this is a new workshop, so a lot of new stuff even for me. All right, so let's open that test, and we can see we have the visit auth magic link. So let's now find our selector. I think I might be able to find that. Let's just go with inspect element. I'm old school. I use that thing. So we have an ID with email. What else we have? We have some classes, placeholder. Let's go with name. So we'll go get name email, and here we're going to type the following text. So let's go with Filip at, and is this our ID? Let's check our Mailosaur service. Yes, here is our ID. Let's copy that. And I'm just going to put that into its own, into its own constant. So server ID, that's it. So in our email, we're going to do at Filip at, and then we'll paste the server ID in here. We're going to do this. All right, let's see how our test is doing so far. I'll save my test. This will make it automatically rerun. And it seems we have typed everything in, so that's good. So let's go with CY contains send magic link. Click. Here we go. Does that work? That works. It seems like we're sending the email, so we're halfway there. We are already sending the link. So now that we have sent the link into our mailbox, we can check if that has worked. Let's go back to Mailosaur. We'll see that we have the email Filip at whatever the server ID is .mailosaur.io. So we got that email. So let's now access it. Now, before we access it, we of course need to install Mailosaur into our project. So the way to do that is by opening a new terminal and typing in npm install, and I believe the plugin is called Cypress Mailosaur. So we do that, fairly simple installation. In fact, I believe I already had that. The second step you need to do in order to install Mailosaur is to go to your support file, e2e.ts. So all you need to do is to import that plugin, and that will automatically enable or expand your Cypress library. So now we actually have some new commands available. We're going to be using those very soon. So commands like cy, Mailosaur message, etc. I think cursor is kind of getting ahead of itself, so I'm going to turn off autocomplete just for a second. And I think like my keyboard shortcut for disabling that is failed, but never mind. All right, before we actually use the Mailosaur command, the Mailosaur get message, which will fetch our message, we need to do one more step. Remember how I said that we need to have an API key? Well, usually that API key needs to be stored somewhere in your environment. Now, the way I do that is I use .env file, which I'm of course not going to show because it contains not only Mailosaur key but some other keys as well. Or you can just save it to your bash file or zshrc file or whatever shell you are using. But I like using .env files. It's very practical. It's scoped to the project. So your .env file, without the example, would look something like this: Mailosaur API key and API key. In order to get that API key from your environment to Cypress, what needs to be done in Cypress config is that first we need to import .env from the .env package and call the config function. And the next thing we'll need to do is we'll need to pass that environment variable into our env object inside the E2E configuration. So we'll do exactly what cursor is suggesting, and that's adding Mailosaur API key from the process environment. That will add that API key into Cypress runtime and is going to be available. What's most important is that it's going to be available to our Cypress Mailosaur commands. So what I'm going to do next is to call cy Mailosaur get message. Okay. Now this Mailosaur get message needs a couple of arguments. So first one is going to be that server ID. So I'll just do server ID. And then the second one is an object which is defining what kind of message we are looking for. Now, Mailosaur has a couple of options on how you can fetch that message. The easiest one is to use the email. And now that I have used that email twice, I'm just going to go ahead and put that into its own variable. So let's go const test email, paste it in. We'll paste that into test email, and the send to will also use the test email property. So just like that, AI assisted coding is so much fun. The autocomplete is amazing. So now that we get the Mailosaur message, let's actually run this. I'm going to run this test. And where's my Cypress at? Here we are. Right. So as you can see, the get Mailosaur message is just a request wrapped. So we call an API, we call our inbox, and what we get back is a response, just as we would get with an API, right? So we have this yielded property. If we open the console and take a look at our details, and we can see our email message. And as I said, Mailosaur parses everything, so we can access whatever we need. We can access attachments if our email has some. We can attach data like who's the sender of that email. We can take a look into the body. We can even take the whole HTML, and you can get into some like very funky use cases where you would parse that email back in your browser and test the email. But what I really like the most is that we have our links parsed. So when I want to access my link, when I want to use that magic link that was sent to my inbox, I can just parse it out and then visit that link. And that way I'm going to be logged in, just as I would if I was doing this for real and not with test automation. So to finish off my test, I'll go back to cursor and use a then command, and I'm going to pass in the message property, and inside this function, I'll probably do what cursor is suggesting. I'll parse the link. I put it into a constant and do message HTML, look into links, find the first one, and I'll find its href property. Then I'm going to visit that link, and I put as string because I am in TypeScript, and there's like the return value is not really there, so I need to use as string to persuade my TypeScript compiler that it is actually going to be a string. And if we're successful, then we should see a message, authentication successful. Cursor autocomplete is actually suggesting me that I handle the error state. So in case we don't have a link, we should throw an error. No link was found in email. And if we do have a link, we just do visit. And I guess that's fine. Okay, now it's kind of hallucinating. So in case of success, this is what we want. And in case of error, we throw an error. All right, that seems about right. So let's run this test and see how it goes. And it seems like we are successful. So to recap, we have typed in the email, requested the magic link from the server, accessed our Mailosaur service, parsed out the link, which we then passed into our visit command. And after we visited, we see the success message. And that's email testing for you. Now, as I said, with this same approach, you could test your reset password link. And if you ever used, internet, you'll find that sometimes the reset password pages don't work. They're under tested because they're hard to test. But you still need to test them because they might be actually one of the most critical parts for your, forgetful clients that forget to remember their password. And this is a very elegant way to make that work. All right, let's now jump back into our presentation. So I did the demo practical challenge. As I mentioned, we're going to skip. Let's go to something more intricate, because some systems for the second factor use your phone. You need to have SMS authentication. So in those cases, the flow of the whole flow looks like very similar to what we have in email. We have user, we have browser, we have server, and we have that third factor. But in this case, sorry, not third, second factor. But in this case, instead of accessing an email inbox, we're accessing our phones. Now, Mailosaur actually enables you to access a phone. It will create a virtual phone for you, virtual number, which is virtual but is actually real. And you can access that number in the same manner you would access your inbox. So the flow of a two-factor authentication with email looks something like this. We enter the phone number as we are prompted to add it, or maybe the system already has it. Depends on like how far you are with your user journey. We send a post request to the server, and server again generates a one-time password. Usually that is a six-digit number. Some services use something else, but 6 digits or 4 digits are pretty standard. So when that's generated, that is actually being sent through a SMS service to your phone. So what then user needs to do is to enter that code onto your page. That page, on that page, when you enter that code and hit enter, gets sent to the server, and after that is verified, you're let into the system. So that's like part of a successful login. So if that happens, you're redirected in your browser to a success page or your dashboard or whatever your service is. So let's try to see how can we automate that with Mailosaur. I'll actually start back in the Mailosaur inbox. So inside this inbox, I'm actually going to empty that. Inside this inbox, we have a couple of options. We have our email inbox, but we also have a couple of numbers. So what you will do when you're using Mailosaur service for your SMS testing is that you create a number. You request a number to be created, and then you can start using that number. And the flow is actually pretty much the same as with emails. Once you have that number created, it is dedicated just for you. And if you input that number in your service, then the SMS message is going to show up in the inbox. So let me show you how that works. Let's go back to my application, and I'm going to do SMS authentication. Now I'm going to use that dedicated number. So let's just briefly jump back to Mailosaur, and I believe this British number is the one that's working. So let's paste it in. I think I need to do the plus symbol before that. Now I'll go ahead, send SMS code. SMS was sent. So let's go back to Mailosaur, and you can now see that message is now appearing. So my verification code is 544 whatever. So let me just copy that. I'll go back to my code, paste in my verification code, click verify, authentication successful. So instead of doing this manually, let's automate that. I'll go back to my cursor, and in here I'm going to create another test, and I'll just call it sms.cy.ts. So let's create a new test. Should send SMS code and verify authentication. Cursor is reading my mind at this point, or maybe it's just reading the Git messages because I already created these files, but then deleted them so I can do this demo. But pretty much we need to do the same. We need to define our server ID. We need to define our test phone. And I'm not sure if that's the correct one. Yes, it is. Then we're going to visit our SMS page. So that's auth/visit. And with the rest, I'm actually not sure. So let's just delete that for a moment and let's iterate over what we have to do. So I'll save this test. I'll go in Cypress. I'll open the SMS and let's see. So we have now our phone number. So let's find a selector for that. And inside here, I'll find the selector. I should probably have my data CY already. And since I created this application, I should have done this, but I guess I got lazy. So let's just use the name for that. So we'll do CY get, and we'll do name and we'll type in the test phone. So after we do that, we want to click the send SMS code. So let's target that with contains, send SMS code, click, and it seems that works. So that's great. So what do we do next? Well, we're actually going to use the same thing as we did before. We'll do cy get Mailosaur get message, where the first parameter is the server ID, which also I forgot to mention, you can have multiple servers. So if you want to have multiple servers IDs, you can actually do that. And the server ID is nothing that needs to be like hidden from public, because without API key, you cannot really access that. So server ID can be just defined. If I were to work on a bigger project, I would probably add this server ID into my Cypress .env. So like the env in my config, right? We could add the server ID into here. It wouldn't need to be in my like environment. So let's go back. And server ID, where the second parameter is going to be sent to, and in this case we're not entering the email, but we're actually entering the test phone. That's the parameter. And if I use that, if I run this test, you'll see again that our Mailosaur get message is nothing else than a request. And again, if we look into the details of that request, we're going to find information about that, right? So we have object body, we have the HTML, we have an SMS, we have some metadata, and we should have the link somewhere. All right, here's the thing. We have a message, text, we have codes, and we actually have the code parsed out. If we look into the Mailosaur service, you can see that we have like the whole text, right? Sent from Twilio trial account. That's what I'm using. Verification code is 54 whatever. So it seems that not it seems, but Mailosaur actually looks for these codes and gives you a dedicated place where you can access those codes, which makes your testing much easier. You don't have to parse them out manually, which I think is great. So let's go back and finish this test. And we're going to do then and type in message. And inside this message, we're going to access that OTP code. All right, so I did have a extra assertion. So in fact, if you want to make sure that your code has a certain format, then you can do something like this. You can do an OTP match, find the match. I actually wanted to access the message text codes, access the first code that is available and its value, and write an assertion. So we can expect the OTP match to not be null. So basically we want that code to not be null. And let's actually just call it OTP code. think that makes more sense. So we want that OTP code, a one-time password, to be a password. We don't want that to be something else. Right. So after we have that, what comes next in our test is that we need to type it into the field. So let's run our test, see how far we get now. I'll save my test, go here, and we can see that we have accessed that. So we see that the number is not null. We're pretty much successful. So what we need to do after that is we need to target this verification code. Let's go ahead and inspect, find that element. Oof, I'm not even sure if I clicked on the right element. So let's target that. It has the ID of OTP, so let's use that. And we'll do inside this then function, right? Because we need to access this variable. So let's go with CY get name OTP and type in the OTP code. And after that, what we're going to do is to click on the verify code. So verify code, click, and finally we'll do CY contains authentication successful to see if we were successful with our automation. So let's save that, run this, and we'll see where we land. An interesting thing happened. We're actually not successful. It says invalid OTP code. So did we get that? Let's take a look. Now, it seems like we have an assertion here, and this looks like an OTP code. So what actually happened? Well, if we go back to our Mailosaur and we look into the inbox, what we will see is that we actually have multiple of these codes available here. So I can either go ahead and empty the inbox by clicking on this button, but if I'm writing automation, I don't want to enter the dashboard and click the button every time I run the test, right? So instead, what I'm going to do is I go ahead and write a bit for each hook. So let's write that, and cursor actually entered everything for me. So I'm going to use another command which I haven't previously used, which is called Mailosaur list messages. So I'm going to list all of the messages that I have in my inbox, and then I'm going to iterate through them and use another command Mailosaur delete message, and I'll delete the message ID. So you can approach it like that, or you can architect it in a different way. I just wanted to show you that there are actually multiple different Mailosaur commands that you can use. You can even create new inboxes. You can edit various things within the inboxes. You can access your devices. You can be very dynamic with what you achieve with Mailosaur. Let's just move this server ID up here so that it is available, and we'll pass in the server ID. So let's run this now and see if we're successful. You can see the messages being deleted. We requested a number, and now finally that number is successful. The verification is passed successfully, and our authentication is successful. Sweet. So that's SMS testing for you. Let's refresh that. Yeah. So now let's go to our next part, and that's Authenticator app. So you probably might have already seen Authenticator applications, applications like Google Authenticator or Authy, or even 1Password has a version of this, I believe, where you still use your phone, but you have this one-time password in your code, and it will have this rotating circle that it's going to invalidate the code. So you need to be quick. Not sure if you ever rushed to type in the codes very fast before it expires. There's actually a little secret to that. Even after it expires, it's still valid for like 5 more seconds. So if you missed it just by a millisecond, you'll probably be able to get through. But how do we automate that? What do we do? Well, this one is actually a little bit more intricate because we have a physical device that we want to that we want to access. And when it comes to how this actually works, is we first use the identifier, usually that's a phone, when we want to set up one time or time what's it called, time based one time password. I think that stands for TOTP. But when we do that first time, usually you scan a QR code or you type in a unique string, and that string lives on the server as well as on your device. So when you first set up, you usually scan that QR code or type in that unique code, and that is saved both on server and on your device. So when you next time go ahead and do the login and need to verify through your Authenticator app, what happens when you submit that digit code is that it is verified both on your authentication app and on your server. There's a unique encryption happening between the server and your authenticator app. Not that they would be directly communicating, but when you're first setting up the authenticator app, there is a unique key generated that is paired with what's happening on the server. So once you have a key on server and key on your authentication app, the generator actually generates those 6 digits according to compliance with the server. So that way, whatever service you are using knows that you are the person you claim to be with your 6 digits. All right, so let's go ahead and try to see how we can automate that. So here's how things might look with your authentication app. Now, usually you can send an email or a phone. So I'm just going to type in an email. Wait, do I have? I think I had that email somewhere. Yeah, let's use the Mailosaur email, and we'll do setup TOTP. So when we do that, we can. As I mentioned, usually the things how they are set up, you either use your phone and scan that QR code, but you always have an option to manually enter the key. When you do that and enter that key in your authentication app, it will start generating those verification codes. Once you have those verification codes, you type them in, you go verify and complete setup, and you're good to go. So that's how that would work. So let's try and see how we would automate that. Now, there are 2 ways of how you can do that in Mailosaur. As I already shown, you can either create your authenticator right in Mailosaur, or you can do that through the API. So let's show the first way. Let's go ahead. I'll paste in the email. And I'm not going to scan the QR code. I'm just going to copy this manual entry key. And back in Mailosaur, I'm going to create a authenticator device. And again, I have the option to upload the QR code, but I also have the enter the secret. Just paste it in. Let's call it Mailosaur demo device. I'll create that device, and you can now see that it is generating my unique passwords. So if I click on that, I'll copy this. Let's go back here, paste it in, verify and complete setup, authentication successful. So that's how we would do that manually, but let's now try to automate that. We'll go back to our project, create a new file, and let's go totp.cy.ts. And let's type in should set up TOTP and verify authentication. So we'll copy, we'll paste in everything that cursor is suggesting. So we have our server ID, we have our test email, we visit our application, type in the email. I think that it is actually identifier, if I remember correctly, the selector. set up TOTP click. I'm not sure if that's all we need to do. Let's go ahead and try that. So I'll open the TOTP test, and all right, we actually get to the page, right? So we typed in the email, we clicked on the setup TOTP button, and now we're on that setup page. So what do we do now? Technically, what we could do is we could download that QR code, then use a QR decoder that would decode this QR code, and we could use that. But we actually don't really need to do that. We can just use the manual key, because that's actually what we would get if we were to decode that QR code. That QR code contains a combination of that key and the email we have added. So there's actually no need for us to do some intricate stuff with downloading and decoding QR code. We can just go ahead and do the manual entry. So let's do just that. I'm going to get the code. So I'll do get code, and then we're going to use that code. So in order, since this is an HTML element, let's actually select that element. HTML element that contains a certain text, we need to parse out that text. So what I'll do is I'll go const, we'll call that shared secret, because that's what that is. And we're going to use text function from jQuery that is available for us for free in Cypress, so that we take the text out of that HTML element. Now we can write an assertion just as Cursor is suggesting for that to not be null, but the more important thing is that we now use the Mailosaur get device OTP command, where we pass in the shared secret, and then we're going to what we get back is going to be that code. But let's not jump ahead. Let's just try to call it and see what happens in our test, so we can go step by step. All right, so we have our code, we have our request, which seems to be returning code 200, so that's a good signal. Let's try to take a look at what's inside. Now what we see is fairly simple. We just have the body and we have the code that has a certain expiration date. So that's good. That's something we can use. So let's just pass that into the function, pass in the OTP parameter, and inside here, what we need to do as the next step is to target this element. So let's just go ahead, inspect that element. I need to make this a little wider. I'm on a small screen today, so that's the thing. We have an ID of TOTP code, so let's just get that TOTP code, and we'll type in that code. OTP.code, was that the parameter? I already forgot. Let's just open the console once again. Yielded body.code. So that needs to be OTP.body.code as string, and we'll type it in. So we'll type it in, and what do we do? Verify and complete setup. That's the button we are looking for. So let's go with CY contains verify and complete setup. We click on that, and as usual, we should be seeing authentication successful at the very end. So let's save that test, run it, and see if we're successful. And it seems we are. So yeah, that's authentication with Authenticator app for you. And with that, we're actually at the end of our workshop. Hopefully this was useful to all of you. Go ahead, go try Mailosaur. They're amazing folks, have amazing service. I'm a big fan of them, and I have been for a lot of years. And I hope you enjoyed that. In case you want to connect with me, feel free to do so. My name is Filip Hric. You can find me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Most importantly, you can find me on my homepage, which I should probably have put onto this slide. But I have my name on the screen, so you'll be able to figure it out. You're smart people. I have no doubts. Um, all right. With that, I'm ending the sharing of my screen, and I can finally put this browser into the center so I can look into your eyes and not on the side. It made it really awkward. Sorry about that. All right.
No worries. It was
Got
a
it.
great session, Philip. We really enjoyed the workflows that you walked us through. We have a number of questions rolling in from chat, so
All
I
right.
think we could dive into a couple of those. Let's start with one that has a couple of upvotes here. And this is a little kind of aside to what you were presenting on, but how helpful do you find Cursor for Cypress specifically?
I find it really helpful. I mean, sometimes Cursor is a bit too keen, as you have seen, with the auto completion of everything. So that can get in the way, especially if I'm explaining stuff. Um, the other thing where maybe it doesn't always hit the goal is that Cypress has its own specific I don't want to say language because it's just JavaScript, but the way the functions are being called are not your typical JavaScript flows. A good example of that, you cannot do const Okay, are we back?
We're back, Philip. I think
I
we just had
Yeah.
a little bit of a glitch.
Yeah, I
um,
apologize for that. I think it might have been on my side because I'm on a hotel Wi-Fi and that's not the one that is stable. And maybe my 24 free hours just expired, so I'm now hooked on my phone and we should be good. Where was I
awesome.
cut off? I
Well,
can finish my thought.
yeah, I think you were saying about Cypress specific syntax, especially like assigning things to like
Yeah,
const and lets. You said there was a little bit of maybe
yeah,
hallucination around that or an area where it struggles.
yeah. Yeah, a little bit, but that I found to be something that can easily be fixed by using rules. So if you have rules, if you know about rules in Cursor, then I highly recommend using those. If you don't, then I highly recommend looking into the Cursor documentation because they actually do a very good job of explaining what rules are. And you can set up rules specific for your Cypress files and Cypress tests and is going to do a really good job.
Awesome. I have another question. This is more general about just using Mailosaur. So,
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about what sets Mailosaur apart here and why it's a go-to solution
Yeah,
for you for this type of workflow.
yeah. For me, Mailosaur was just there when I needed it, which was a couple of years back when I really needed that reset password flow to be tested. And I wasn't sure. I tried to talk to my developers, like, can we get like something that I could access the database? And they were like, no, you're not accessing the database. You need to like that's not even end-to-end testing, right? So I just like randomly stumbled upon Mailosaur and I have liked it ever since. I didn't do like a full scale comparison of other services. I know there are some other services that do similar stuff. For me, this has been always comfortable, so I will always recommend them because they're good folks. So I like them. So that's all I can say say about that.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to the Mailosaur team. They are really great over there. Another question that I have for you, this is more about practical application. Will the Mailosaur server ID or phone change at some point without prior notice?
Very good question. No, it won't. Like your server ID is your server ID, and you can actually change it, and it doesn't have to be like this random set of numbers and letters. You can make it your own, so you can call it whatever. There's even a support for custom DNS, so you can do that. And the numbers, once you have that number dedicated, it doesn't change. So you can use the same thing for years and years and thousands and millions of messages and emails.
Excellent. And let's go ahead and let's skip over to another practical application of Mailosaur. Can it be used to check PDF files in email, meaning like sending PDF files via email with SMS?
Sending PDF file with email and SMS. I'm not sure like how have we like combined all of that. But like to answer your question, you can check that there is a PDF attachment in your email. That's very easy to do because, as I said, Mailosaur parses all the different parts of your email, and you can access attachments like nothing, right? And if you want to test that PDF itself, I have written a blog about testing PDF with Cypress, which is basically like and again, like that's showing how pluggable Cypress is, right? You install another plugin that is capable of like parsing that PDF file and making sure that it contains all the information that you need. There's no native command in Cypress to test PDF or in Mailosaur, but if you chain things together correctly, you can do all of that, right? Send an email, look into the attachment, download that PDF, then use CY-task to run whatever command you need in order to look inside that PDF and test contents of that. So definitely doable. Just needs maybe a little bit more tinkering.
All right. I think that's the end of our time, Philip. So we are going to wrap things up. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the workshop. And thank you, everyone, for joining in with us.